So today I'm pretty excited about our lineup. Our presentation today is very targeted around the funnel and getting people to spend some money with you. How do we get some cash in the door for Christmas? How do we anticipate what's coming? And how do we make sure that we have optimized our business to deal with the festive season? So without further ado, I think we might get started. So cash for Christmas. Probably a very timely thing to be doing this right now, and I'm pretty excited about how we're going to help you get some cash in the door. But before I do, I just want to go through some fundamentals, I guess. And really it's about which is your business, because often when we work with people in business, we see two kinds of business owners. We see one which is basically busy all the time. And can I guess get a show of hands for those people who are quite busy right now, those people who are busy in their business? There's a few. Awesome. Busy is good, right? Unless it distracts you from doing what you're supposed to be doing. And one of the reasons we are so busy is because we are the business. So you can see in this diagram, operations takes up most of our time. Admin takes up a little bit of our time, and sales and marketing becomes almost a non-thing. And when we ask people about this, they say, we don't need to market and sell because we get all our business through word of mouth or referral. Is there anyone in that boat who gets most of their business through word of mouth or referral? Yep. So that's really cool. I will never suggest you shouldn't get business through word of mouth or referral, but what I would suggest is that creating a marketing and sales system should be a non-negotiable part of building your business. And so what I'd like to do is just go through what you should be looking like as a business, which is a bit more like this. Sales and marketing should be a function within your business that gets as much attention as your operations, that gets as much attention as your admin. But you'll notice a little distinction on this diagram is that the person, you, is not part of the day-to-day operation. You're on the outside and you're working on the business rather than in the business. Today, we're going to be talking about getting cash in the door, which is going to focus on that red circle of sales and marketing. And when we do this, there's basically three parts we're going to be talking about today. So if we look at this, this is your typical sales funnel that most people should have some version of this. And it has three components to it. The first component being what we call top of funnel. And that is, where do I get leads from? How do I generate leads in my business? We're going to talk a bit about that today. Then we're going to talk about middle of funnel, which is what do I do with those leads if they're not ready to buy, and how do I convert them and how do I get them ready to buy? And then we're going to talk about the bottom of funnel, which is how do I actually close a sale? Now, being cash for Christmas, we're going to do this in reverse order. So the first thing we're going to talk about is any prospects that you have in your bucket right now that should be buying and should be paying money right now. How do we close sales? So to do that, I'm going to introduce our first presenter for today, which is Ben Lay. Who knows Ben already in this room? Who's met Ben before? Ben is an awesome salesperson. Today, he's going to be talking about the secrets of soft selling. And this is one of my favorite topics because I don't believe you need to be a hard sell salesperson. I believe that you need to understand how to communicate effectively and how to help people buy. So I'm going to hand over to Ben so he can talk a bit about the secret of soft selling. Over to you, Ben.
Thanks very much, David. And it's so good to see so many familiar faces and to meet so many new people. This morning's topic is secrets of soft selling. But don't be mistaken that soft does not equal weak. Soft does not mean ineffective. The whole idea is to use this thing that we call soft skills to increase our persuasiveness and our influence on others. The end result is that you're going to shorten your sales cycles and increase your conversion rates. The stuff that I'm going to share with you, I'm not holding anything back. This is what I teach my clients nearly word for word. If you put these techniques into practice, you will increase your conversion rates and shorten your sales cycles. It's got my stamp of approval and guarantee on it. But let's think about this for a moment. Have you ever gotten one of these phone calls where your first instinct is go away? A couple of months ago, I got this phone call where it was a survey person. And so technically they're selling their survey. I don't know. But the thing was, she was really, really pushy and taking advantage of my nice nature. Like being a sales trainer, I tend to be a little bit more accommodating to salespeople. And so, but the thing was, she was asking some questions that I just did not want to answer, but she kept on pushing and pushing and pushing. And so I felt in a way violated by the way that she was handling that conversation. But I seriously felt like I needed therapy afterwards, after receiving a call like that. But the thing is, we've all received these calls in the past. And as a result, on a subconscious level, we're thinking we don't want to be like that. We don't want to inflict this kind of harm on other people. So how do we reconcile that? If any of you can identify with me on being a bit of an introvert, like I may not present like myself as an introvert on the screen and when I'm presenting, but the truth is that I am actually a natural introvert. I'm so introverted that as a kid, when I went to parties, I would hide in a corner and hope that no one would talk to me. No exaggeration. I'm so introverted that my brain woke me up at 5 a.m. in the morning a couple of weeks ago because it figured out why someone wasn't returning my calls, right? And yet I'm in the sales profession, out here presenting myself. Why? It's because I've learned to adapt and to create new behaviors and develop new skills that allows me to be effective in social situations. So I've gone from being socially awkward to socially adept. And I think this photo perfectly encapsulates my personality because I can't help it. Like it just comes out naturally that you can read the body language in that's who I am. And so sales did not come naturally to me. My first career was actually in nursing. And so for any of you that feel like you're not a natural salesperson or you're a natural introvert, don't worry. I was at the bottom of the barrel of the least likely people who would be effective at sales. So that's my encouragement to you. Now, in terms of the sales journey, what we're going to cover today really focuses in on the last 2/3 of the sales process. So you usually have a consultative phase, a presentation phase, and then a close phase. So we're going to focus on how we can bring in some revenue quickly. All right. So let's address that issue, that conflict at the back of our mind. We're going to contrast being passive versus being aggressive. No, we're not going to do how to be passive aggressive. We're going to contrast the two. Now, here's the definition of being aggressive in a sales situation. Aggressive salespeople only care about themselves. They are concerned about what they can extract out of you. They're only thinking about their hip pockets. Passive is on the other end of the spectrum. And this is where I see most of my clients try to avoid being aggressive. And so they swing to the other end and they're passive. What this means is that they don't even ask for the order. They say to the prospect, come back to me when you're ready. And what is the reality? The reality is most people will just not come back to you, right? People are inherently disorganized, they're unmotivated, and they get distracted easily. So where is the middle ground? The middle ground is assertive. Assertive is where we are putting the client's interests at heart, but we're also putting our interests in there as well. We're looking for the win-win, not the win-lose or the lose-win. There is a middle ground, and how we strike that balance, I'm going to share with you shortly. So here's what we're going to cover. Here are the 3 key techniques. Number 1, if you want to get more cash in for Christmas, if you want to close your deals now, you really have to increase the perceived value of your service. Number 2, you need to decrease the perceived availability of your service. And number 3, you need to increase the urgency. After all of this, I'm going to give you a practical example of what this looks like by giving you my offer. So I'm giving myself permission to quote unquote sell from the stage. I hope you guys don't mind, but it's for educational purposes. Number 1, you need to increase the value. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about value. We've all heard the saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But value is in the eye of the beholder as well. What this means is that different people will value different things. Let's just say for a moment that any digital marketers in the room? Yes, thank you, Marina. Okay, Marina, you're good at what you do. You're excellent at what you do. But the thing is, some people will think that your services are really great and some will get very little value out of it. But it's exactly the same service. So what's going on there? Well, let's think about it. Let's just say you're dealing with a medium-sized corporation. They've been spending a lot of money on a campaign that hasn't been working. They switch to you, you help them to suddenly change the direction of their marketing, and they're profitable from their marketing. Massive, massive value. But then you got someone who's running a fish and chip shop and their business model does not require digital marketing. So their perceived value is going to be a lot less than that other company that we mentioned. So you have to understand that value is different for everybody. And therefore, you have to account for the person that you're speaking to, and don't assume that they're going to care about what you're offering. But let's just assume for a moment you are talking to the right person who needs what you provide. Here's what you do. You package your services. The reality is that the perceived value of a bundle is greater than the sum of its parts. This is why McDonald's typically sells meals, their burgers with their fries, with their Coke, because you get a small discount and the perceived value of having all three together is better than the individual components. So how does this look in practice? All right, so I hope you don't mind. I love my puns. This is my shameless plug, okay? This is what I would typically quote for my coaching services. I'll say that the coaching is worth $3,600. The online training is worth $1,200. Sales process documentation, $3,000, et cetera, et cetera. The total value is $9,000. But if you buy them together, then your price is going to be $5,000. So you get 40% off. This is how you package it together. When a person takes up all of these together, it provides a comprehensive service that allows them to get the intended result. Now, here's the thing, though. Remember what I said about beauty and value being in the eye of the beholder. If a person is going to understand the value of the coaching or the online training or the sales process documentation or whatever, you need to be able to translate this language into the one that your prospect understands. So you need to use what I call the universal translator. So for those of you who are Star Trek fans, this is Spock. He's the Vulcan, the very logical one. The Star Trek people use this device called the universal translator to understand any alien language that they speak to. So what is the universal language for your prospective clients? It's this. It's this simple phrase, what this means for you. What this means for you. If you focus only on talking about the technical aspects of your product, or if you only focus about the features and the benefits, they're not going to understand what it ultimately means for them. Let's go back to that digital marketing example. We've had 20 years of experience in the SEO industry. What this means for you is that we're not a fly-by-night agency, that we've built our reputation and you can rest easy at night knowing that we're going to look after you. Let's go back to my personal example. So I have that online training. So what this means for you to have access to this online training is that even 5 years down the track, if you want to refresh your skills, you still have access to this to remind yourself and to reinforce the learnings. So translate everything by saying what this means for you. So package it all together, increase the perceived value, then translate it into what this means for your client. So here's action step number 1. It's from a pretty popular guy right now. His name is Alex Hormozi. What you need to do is to design your services in such a way that the offer feels so good, it feels stupid for your prospect to say no. You have to deliver this amount of value for this price. And it's not just about the numbers that I just gave you there, like the $9,000 versus the $5,000. What's more important than that is the value that they're going to get. What's the value of working with me? My deliverable is increased sales conversions, which translates into revenue. My typical case studies double or triple or quintuple their return on investment. Sometimes 10 times return on investment, sometimes more, right? That's the value that I'm providing my clients. And so you need to think about your service, how you are delivering value to your clients. use the universal translator to help them to understand ultimately what they're going to get. Right, so now that we've built the value stack, that's the most important component. If you try any of these other tactics without first building the value, these are going to come across as contrived. It's going to come across as unethical and manipulative. So first, focus on the value. Then you decrease the availability. What this means is that people generally want what is scarce. So I've got the toilet paper there because we all related to that absolute insanity of during COVID, people buying garagefuls of toilet paper. People want what is scarce. This is just human nature. So if you have no scarcity, there's not going to be any urgency to purchase before Christmas. But how do you go about doing this in a non-contrived and a non-manipulative way? Well, here's what you do. You think about what is your actual limit. How many clients can you actually serve at any given time? If I suddenly gave you 100 clients, would you be able to serve all 100 at the same time? Probably not. Most people. What about the ones where you can? What if you're selling software and there is no limit? You can put on 1,000 people and it won't matter. Well, in that case, limit the special offer. So we created that bundle, limit the number of people that can take advantage of that bundle. That's creating a limit and therefore increases the scarcity. Now, mind you, we do have to be a little bit careful here not to come across as contrived. So as much as possible, we want to only use numbers that are actually true. So here's your action step for this part. Communicate the limit of clients that you can serve to increase the perceived scarcity. All right, here's the third part. Increase urgency. So we've built the value, we've increased the scarcity. Now we need to increase the time pressure. Here's another reality for you. If there is no urgency, there is no action. No urgency, no action. People are emotional beings. If they don't feel like they need to take action straight away, they simply won't. So here's how you build urgency in a genuine way that's in the client's best interests. We count the costs with them. You count what are the actual costs of their problem not being solved. Going back to digital marketing, because this is the easiest one. I used to sell digital marketing, so it's easy for me to think about. The actual costs of going with the wrong agency might be, say, $2,000 per month. But then you think on the other side of the coin, what are the opportunity costs? So yeah, well, we're losing $2,000 every month for being with the wrong agency. But then the opportunity cost is we're missing out on $10,000 or $20,000 of additional revenue per month. As opposed to, so if they were to invest it in the right marketing company, then their return is $20,000 per month. So 20,000 plus 2,000, that's $22,000 per month that they are losing as a result of being with the wrong agency, with the wrong strategy. And then you think about this, about how it compounds over time. So 3 months of the wrong campaign, that's $66,000 worth of lost opportunities and actual costs. Right? This is how you count the cost with your client, help them to understand tangibly what this problem is causing for them. Now, if there are no genuine costs, then you might want to be a bit transparent and say so. But there is always going to be some sort of benefit of solving the problem sooner rather than later. So you need to communicate what this is for them. Once you've helped them to understand the cost of inaction, then you help them to set timelines. And as a general principle to keep everything ethical and to keep everything kosher, so to speak, we only want to use reasons that are in the client's best interests. Okay, here's another simple step. There are certain things that you can do that with very, very little effort that will have a really good return for you. Here's one of those things. If you don't ask, the answer is no. So ask, would you like to go ahead? So many of us are scared to do this because we're afraid of the rejection. We're afraid of coming across as pushy. You're not being pushy if you are going to deliver this amount of value and for this amount of cost. So very, very simple step, ask for the order. Don't make it complicated. Would you like to go ahead? But most people will say, I need time to think about it. And that's perfectly okay, right? There's a lot of books out there on how to pressure people to not think about it, but I think that's not the right approach. I personally like to give myself a little bit of time to make a decision, and I always allow my clients this space. So here's what you do. You schedule the decision. You say, on Friday at 2 o'clock, I'll give you a call. How about I give you a call and you can let me know if you've decided to go ahead or not. You make it easy for them. You invite them to reject you. You say, if you've decided not to go ahead, that's perfectly okay. Just let me know. I promise I won't take it personally if you decide it's not right for you. Some people will not show up for this appointment. That's just the reality. So then you need to create a follow-up sequence to make sure that it's not just some sort of other circumstance. People get distracted, bad things happen, people get sick. So you want to follow up just to make sure that they still want to go ahead. Okay, so here's action step number 3. You count the costs with your client, set a timeline, ask for the order, and then schedule the decision. Okay, over to my offer. That shameless plug that I was talking about. Here's how it looks like in real terms. Here is how I help my clients. Your leads multiplied by your conversions, multiplied by your average price equals your revenue. Many of my clients will have problems with one or more of these areas. So thinking about your current situation, for every 10 leads that you speak to, how many of them are turning into clients? If across the board, if you're getting anything less than 30% on your conversions, let's have a chat. Let's see if we can help you out. Or if your prices are too low, your competitors are charging here and you're charging here, let's have a conversation. I can help you with that. Charge what you're worth and maintain those conversion rates while we're at it. I have a lot of great case studies for that. So if you want to explore working with me, I am actually opening up 5 strategy sessions. My calendar is getting quite full at the moment, right? This is 100% genuine. I know I talked about it as a technique. Genuinely, my calendar is really full for this week and next week. But I am still offering 5 strategy sessions. But the thing is, I really cannot give it to everybody, all right? So therefore, I need you guys, if you are interested in working with me, to submit your expression of interest. As a reward to anybody who is applying for this expression of interest, this strategy session, I will give you my $1,200 online sales training course as a thank you for expressing your interest. But if you are selected, then we will talk about how to strategize and get some deals across the line for you as quickly as possible, and then set you up for massive returns within a 12-month period. So here's the URL, the QR code for you to submit your interest, submit your details, and hopefully we'll be able to work together. With that, I'll conclude by saying, sell with passion and purpose, and thank you so much for attending this morning.
Amazing. Thanks, Ben. Everyone give Ben a nice warm round of applause. I love it that he could actually teach us how to sell while selling to us at the same time. But the techniques are valid, right? And one thing I love about Ben, he's very pragmatic and he's very clear in his direction. And I think for some of us, we don't consider scarcity. We don't like the idea of saying we have limited time when we don't. We're not sure how to adjust our pricing. And really, like, if you're missing out on sales because your conversion is low, that's the lowest hanging fruit, right? I've always been an advocate of sales for people, and I think it's so important. Our next presenter is probably just as important. When we talk about the sales funnel, we've just talked about how do you close more sales and how do you make sure you get those sales in before Christmas. I want to talk about the middle of funnel, the green area. And often when we do our marketing and advertising, one of the things that sort of holds us back is people aren't ready to buy right now. And if we're not prepared for this, if we don't have a mechanism or a method to keep in touch with people, we will lose sales or we will be totally frustrated by people not buying. And that's when we become aggressive, as Ben touched on. So for our next presenter, I'd like to introduce Peter Burgess. Peter Burgess is going to be talking today about the fortune is in the follow-up. And I think in this day and age, if you don't have a systemized and structured follow-up system, you are leaving money on the table. And the whole idea of having a structured follow-up is super, super important. So let's hand over to Pete.
Thank you, David. Okay, so today's presentation, I'll be talking about how to maximize conversion with the ultimate follow-up system, aka the fortune is in the follow-up. So here's a statistic. There's these statistics. The actual original source of this specific statistic is a little bit gray. There's many similar statistics on the internet, but anecdotally in my own business and in other businesses, you'll see a very, very similar results. So around about 58% of salespeople only call once. So if you're talking about an outbound call or to follow up an inquiry, it's just the one phone call. But in fact, 15% of salespeople will only make 5 or more contacts on average. But yet 85% of all sales are actually occurring after the 5th contact. So what that means is there's a huge amount of opportunity that's being lost just by not actually effectively following up. So in many cases, people won't realize how much business they're losing because they're only following up the one time. So here's the question: how many sales did you lose today? So there's some causes for a loss of sales. So you could have a very ad hoc process for managing inquiries. Often it's the case that an inquiry will come into your inbox. You'll receive an inquiry via email or via phone, but you're not quick to respond. Your competitor will take the business, or in many cases, you might not even see it. So it might be a week later, you'll get contacted by Facebook saying, I sent you an email last week, why haven't you responded? And that's quite a common scenario, especially in the end of the week on a Friday. Someone sends you an inquiry at 6 p.m. on a Friday. You don't see it until Monday, or you might not even see it because it's on page 3 of your inbox. So slow follow-up is a big issue as well, actually responding within a period of time, by which time that lead has gone elsewhere to another competitor, or they decided to postpone the business. So you need to have a follow-up strategy, and you need to replace those manual ad hoc processes with some level of consistency and automation. So why does follow-up matter? Well, it's a very noisy world out there, as you know. There's a lot of communication, a lot of people competing for your business. There's a lot of noise, a lot of messaging going on. So you need to stand out. So for your customer, you need to stay top of mind. So one of the best ways to actually stay top of mind is to make sure that you follow up, that you're phoning them back on a regular basis, that you've got an automated sequence of emails going out to them on a regular basis. You're nurturing that relationship. You're keeping that relationship going over a long, extended period of time. You don't see the customer as just a one-off opportunity. You see them as a lifetime relationship. And to succeed, you have to interrupt. And this is actually a really key insight here. If you don't interrupt, all sales really is about interruption. So you have to, your customers or your prospects are going about their daily life. They're not thinking about you right now. They're doing their thing. They might have a problem that they're concerned with, but they're not thinking about you right now. So what you actually have to do to be effective is to interrupt them. So that's picking up the phone, saying, look, do you have 5 minutes to talk? Sending them that email, contacting them on LinkedIn, making an effort to reach out to them. So I'm a big proponent for outbound as well as inbound sales. Outbound sales is harder in a way psychologically. It means you've got to step out of your comfort zone, but you're much more likely to generate business. 2 key rules: the 95-5 rule, also known as the 93-7 rule, which is that at any one moment in your market, only about 5 or 7% of people are in buying mode right now. So if you contact someone today, they're most likely to say no. And often no doesn't mean no. It means not right now. We're not quite ready right now. But when you get that no, it's often the case that we'll just say, oh, okay, well, we'll just move on, forget about them, and move them to the too hard basket. But the 95-5 rule reminds you that a lot of people will be ready to buy at some point in the future. So we need to have a system where we nurture and we keep in touch with and follow up those that are not directly ready to buy right now. And then a key one here is the 30-day rule. Now, the 30-day rule really has application right now as we're coming into Christmas. the work that you do in the next 30 days will pay off for the next 90 days. So if you're going to do a really, really crazy mad prospecting push campaign in the next 30 days, that will give you a fantastic, February, March. Because we've got Christmas, obviously not a lot's going to happen between about the 15th of December and the 15th of January. But it does mean when you come back from your break, everyone's going to be ready to work with you because they're very enthusiastic about working with you because you've been talking to them before Christmas. So the 30-day rule is really important. If you're noticing a slump in your pipeline, it's normally because about 90 days ago, you didn't do enough work. So what the world's greatest car salesman knew. So Joe Girard is the Guinness Book of World Records #1 salesperson. And he passed away some time ago, but he was very good at selling cars. He sold 13,000 cars. In fact, his record year, he sold more than 1,000 cars. And he knew that people buy from those that they like and trust. So selling is all about relationships. You have to apply relentless follow-up with customers, always keep in touch, not be annoying, not be spammy, but make sure you value that relationship. They understand that you value that relationship. And really, we're coming from a place of caring about the outcomes for those customers, making sure that our fantastic services, because look, if our services are not fantastic, we shouldn't be in business. Our fantastic services are going to really benefit those customers. So make sure we're always in contact with them. And know them as individuals, because every single person on this call, every single person in your customer database, they're all individuals. And we often make the mistake, we say we're working with a big company, but actually a company is a collection of individuals. To get to know them as people. And this was his follow-up system. It's a very genius follow-up system, very, very simple follow-up system. He didn't use a CRM, he used an index card, a set of index cards, which was effectively an analog CRM. But every single conversation he had, he would put information about that conversation on an index card. And then he would send a thank you, after he'd sold a car, he would send a thank you card out to that person on the day of the sale to say thank you for your business. And then he would remind them that if they do have any friends or family that are looking for a new car, there's a $50 referral bonus. And every time he contacted them in the future, he would remind them of that $50 referral bonus. Just make sure that they're always aware that they could, invite their family and friends to become a customer. And then he'd regularly check in. He would call them a few weeks after the sale to say, how's the car going? Do you have any issues with the car? And then he would send them a greeting card on a regular basis on birthdays, but also just randomly every month or so, he'd send them something in the post, something of value. And he never, ever forgot to call back. So if he said, I'll give you a call in 6 months, you'll probably be more interested in renewing your car at that point. He would actually call them back in 6 months. So that's the key to it, really. That's his analog system, which was highly successful. But obviously, nowadays, we can create automated non-analog systems. So follow-up use cases in a typical business. As I said before, inquiry is very important. TTFC, time to first contact. In some industries, for example, legal industry, you need to respond very, very quickly because it's very competitive. Other people will take your business. So make sure you've got an autoresponder that when someone inquires, they get an automatic response straight away and that you're on the phone as soon as possible. Follow up with inactive clients. Clients are inactive for a number of reasons, but you can generate a lot of business, especially in this period running up to Christmas. Get in touch with your database of inactive clients and re-engage them. You can do that by using the phone, or we can set up sequences via email and LinkedIn and other channels. And lost deals. So just because a deal is lost, it probably is lost for a reason, and it's not going to be. It may be timing. It might be it's just not right now. They don't have the budget right now. But always keep in touch and make sure you do your best to reactivate lost deals, because it doesn't mean the business is lost forever. It might just be lost right now. So just a bit of a recap there. If this sounds familiar, you've lost inquiries in your inbox, so you're very slow to follow up. Competitor takes the opportunity. Non-tracking of lead metrics is an issue. So you're not aware of how many leads you've got, how many leads you're converting. So you're not really able to optimize and improve your process. And then another one I've seen quite a lot is the wrong staff member assigned. So you've got an opportunity, an inquiry comes in, it's sent to the wrong person, and then it's passed around the business. It's not a particularly good look. Yeah, the person who is best qualified to respond to an inquiry should be the one who actually answers that inquiry. And tire kickers, do you have a qualification system? Do you have a way of ensuring that those leads that come into your business are of reasonable quality? That we don't want to overqualify. We want to make sure that we're still dealing with people who are serious, but we don't want to filter out everybody. But we do need to have a system for filtering out the tire kickers. So here's some follow-up strategies that I recommend employing. Follow up all of your inquiries fast. So I've mentioned that a number of times. Time to first contact is very important. So follow up all your inquiries as fast as you possibly can. So send out some value, get on the phone, really important. Design your sales cadences. So I'll talk about sales cadences in a minute, but we're talking about multi-channel. We're talking about very much personalized follow-up sequences. So we're actually communicating with potential customers via different channels and making sure we're maximizing the chance of conversion. It's a no-brainer really, but you need to use a CRM. So if you're a very small business, yeah, you can get away with an index card system, but an index card system, unless you're super disciplined, like Joe Girard, is pretty suboptimal nowadays. The CRM will have some of the attributes of an index card system, but a whole load of new functionality which wasn't available 30, 40 years ago. And automate, don't rely upon human beings. Human beings forget. Unless you're really disciplined and have a daily routine of checking those index cards, you need an automated system to remind you when to follow up, to send out emails to customers, to send out, even by one service I use, send out postcards automatically. And then measure and improve. This system that you set up for follow-up really is a goldmine for your business. So if you treat it as the engine of productivity and success in sales for your business and improve, over time, this will become a fantastic asset. So one day when you sell your business, you're selling the whole system. So number one, manage your inquiries. Record all your inquiries as leads in the CRM. Confirm receipt immediately and send value. Now this is, when I say send value, I'm talking about embedding a video in an email, sending a little bit of a checklist or some information for them to review while they're waiting for you to get back to them directly. So, but it means that when someone fills in your contact form, they will receive a confirmation straight away. So they don't feel like they've sent an inquiry into the ether. And so prospects are more likely to wait for you to get back to them rather than go to a competitor if they've received an auto response, if they feel like if you're giving them a promise as to when you're going to contact them again. And then in your CRM, automatically create follow-up activities. So as soon as an inquiry's come in, we create activities for our team to see. We make sure we've got a strict process around follow-up. But yeah, for the new inquiries. A 5Cs framework is a framework I came up with for managing inquiries. The first stage is capture, so make sure you've got a place to capture inquiries. It's a form or internal form or contact form. Confirm with them, as I say, confirm receipt, communicate with your team, let them know we've got a new inquiry, then reach out and contact that person. And then the final piece is convert them into business if they qualify. Sales cadences really, and there's a lot of stuff nowadays, a lot of great research on the ideal sales cadence. It really is a matter of testing what worked with you. But the general concept here is that we map out for different customer segments an ideal process for communicating with customers. Now, this particular one I've got here, you could have a process for communicating with new customers or for outreach. Firstly, we start on LinkedIn, then we send a personalized email, then we make a phone call, then we send a voice note, then we send a video in an email. So most effective nowadays are any kind of communication where you're using voice or video. So I use Loom, or you can use Vidyard, but just really engaging with a customer over a period of time, or a potential customer over a period of time, using multiple channels. So LinkedIn's very effective. You go to networking, you've just met somebody for the first time, get out there and reach out to them on that day on LinkedIn. And then if we've got a connection going, you can then send them maybe something useful of value via email. And then you can catch up with them, a phone call or, you know, a Zoom to talk about potential business opportunities. So just be proactive and set up a repeatable sequence, which is called a cadence here. So timing is really important. We need to be persistent and not spammy. Very important that you come across as someone who is fully engaged, but not annoying and spammy. Take that multi-channel approach. So, you know, a lot of people will not respond to the phone. They might not respond to email, but they would quite like an audio message. If they get an audio message or a video, a personalized video in LinkedIn, that will more likely convert. And measure and improve and see what works. And as I've said before, you do need a CRM. So that's your single source of truth. You need to get organized, track all your deals, capture all of those communications, and integrate with you know, other pieces of software that you've got. You've got really good reports and dashboards. You get really good insights into what's working and what's not working. And then within a good CRM, I advocate working with Pipedrive CRM. You can create automations within the CRM. It's got its own workflow builder, or we can use external tools to create those automations. And automation, that's probably like my bread and butter, really. It's the most, for me, I see the biggest gains. You know, some of my customers actually on this call today have noticed how automating your processes can really free up time and just create this consistent experience for customers. So we start by mapping out your process. So you've got a visual map of the process, then put in place automations around automating of you know, autoresponders and emails, reminders to your team, sending out links to book when someone has booked, moving deals through the pipeline automatically. There's an awful lot you can do with automation, still keeping in mind that we're human beings and we want to maintain that human interface. And as I mentioned before, Pipedrive CRM, there's native automation support within the tool, or you can use other tools like Zapier and Make.com. And Make.com I've been using more and more recently. It's also known as Integromat, very powerful tool for automating workflows across a vast number of different cloud services. And then so important is to measure and improve. So look at what's currently working for you and actually then improve and refine and try and get better. But you need your numbers. So you need to understand how many leads you're getting, how are those leads converting to deals, how many of those leads are genuinely, you know, are qualifying. With your deals, what's the speed at which they progress through your pipeline? What's the conversion between different stages? And then most importantly, in fact, it should have come at the start, is focus on the activities you're carrying out, because everything in sales comes down to activities. If you don't do anything, if you don't make phone calls, if you don't send emails, if you don't have meetings, then your numbers are not going to be great. So we really focus on activities. It's almost like blind faith in a way. If we carry out those activities, we will get results. Often it's hard to see it. You know, if you're in a slump or a difficult period, you might be wondering, oh, why am I not converting business? It's often because you're not carrying out enough activities. So track that and record that information, and you can then improve. And here's a bit of a quick case study. So I worked with a lawyer in Brighton last year, actually, a good case. And all of their email and their phone inquiries, etc., are synchronized into the CRM from all the different channels. So we've got an internal form, we've got several contact forms on the website, got their own Facebook campaigns. Everything goes into the CRM and is tagged accordingly based upon the source from where it came. And then there's a member of staff there whose responsibility is to triage those inquiries and assign them out to staff via the CRM. Then automatically, once that's assigned, a meeting link is then emailed automatically to that person, depending upon the type of service that they're actually interested in. And then once they've booked the meeting, the pipeline, the deal in the pipeline is automatically updated. Now, during that whole process, being a lawyer, there's lots of things they have to do and lots of documents they have to send, payments that they have to receive. So there are automated follow-ups throughout that entire process, all driven out of the CRM. So that's a typical use case where we've got inquiries right through to onboarding, all done through the CRM. At a high level, visual mapping, I often use this tool, Lucidchart, just to show staff filling out a web form or a form inquiry through the contact form, goes into the CRM, and you get your updated contact, lead, and activity. So this is at a very high level, the general concept. You need a form, you need a CRM, and then we create the entities within the CRM. When I'm doing visual mapping, I'll often create maps that look a bit like this. The colors might not be so visible for yourselves, but the idea is that we map out in detail, step by step, all the possible flows and interactions. And then once they're mapped out, we then build the automations to make it actually happen in the real world. So this is that's the main part of the presentation. A quick last couple of minutes here, just talking about the services that I provide. So they're sales-focused services. I really focus on the sales process, designing your optimal sales process, putting in place a CRM, and then putting in place automations. And then insights is about the dashboards and reports, so you can measure and improve your process. But at the end of the day, we've got a iterative process here from design right through to insights, which will give you the best chance, combined with the right communication messaging, as Ben has advised you, to create a really good sales process and improve your results. So transforming your sales process, we're talking about saving time through automation, saving you stress so that you can easily monitor client and prospect activity. You've got everything in one place, and then saving you money so you can focus on getting out there and talking to customers. My process, the 4-step sales technology blueprint. Start with the sales process strategy call. I'm offering free calls today, and then moving on to road mapping, where we have a 3 or 4 hour session going through looking at your business in much more detail and mapping out your current and optimal sales process, and then planning out an implementation for automations in your business and rolling out a CRM. And the implementation assurance is if we work with third parties, we're assuring you of the outcome. And here's a bit of the general overview of how I work. I work as a co-creation, working together with customers. So I'm not imposing a solution on you. I'm actually talking to you about your business, what would work for you, mapping them out mapping those processes with BPMN, and then planning implementation, rolling out the CRM. Now here's a few tools. I'll just leave this up for a minute if you want to scan the QR code. I recommend, there's a new tool at the bottom here actually that I've started using a bit more, which is Clenty. I spoke about sales cadences. So this actually works directly with Pipedrive and other tools, Salesforce and other CRM, to actually create a one-stop shop for sales engagement for your customers. So this is where we can build sales cadences that are very much customized towards the type of industry or type of segment we're dealing with. So you can create very personalized messaging flows, integration with LinkedIn, integration with lots of other tools, so you can engage across multiple channels. As I mentioned up there, Zapier and Make.com. For booking appointments, I use OneShub.com, but Calendly is a good option. For a one-stop shop for taking payments and getting agreements signed, Ignition. So there's a free trial in there as well, or a discounted trial. And then for email marketing, ActiveCampaign and ConvertKit. So this is really the philosophy behind my business, which is taking your overwhelm and your hopefully bulging list of potential customers and turning it into a real bucket of gold. A few nice things said to me by clients. And if you're interested to know more, there's a free 45 minutes sales process strategy call, just to use the QR code. But I'll turn this over to Q&A.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Pete, everyone give Pete a nice round of applause. Lots of data. As you can see, Pete loves his technology. There's a few QR codes there. I'd recommend that you get your hands on some of those bits of software. I can see some comments on that as well. There was a few questions about which is the best CRM, and I'll suggest the answer is the one that you use. Because for most people, It's not the technology, it's actually the application. We've talked about bottom of funnel. How do you close more sales? We've talked about middle of funnel. How do you nurture those people who are in your world, who have made inquiry with you and you haven't sold yet? And now I want to talk about top of funnel, which is lead generation. And when we talk about cash for Christmas and top of funnel, people are saying, well, getting new leads right now is possibly too late. I'm going to suggest something totally different. When I started in sales about 30 years ago, I was introduced to a fellow by the name of Tom Hopkins. Who knows the name Tom Hopkins? He's one of those old-time sales trainers who I used to love. And he used to have this saying. He said, you know, when 9 people say no to you and 1 says yes, and your product sells for $100, every no is $10. And he'd say, when someone rejects you, say, thanks for the $10. So let's talk about top of funnel. And I want to talk about marketing with magnets. We live in a world where people are getting more and more marketing messages. And so the problem we're seeing is that we're not getting enough leads. And every time I talk to people about business, they say, we want more leads. We want more leads. We want more leads. And then some people say, well, there's leads and there's leads. Okay. If you have an automated system, I don't care how many leads you get. What I care about is which are the good ones. The second problem that we see is people are getting smashed. People are getting smashed with information. You know, we now are on social media. I was driving to work this morning. I don't know if anyone else has noticed this. The bus stop is full of kids going to school. And guess what they're doing? They're all staring at their phone, right? Everyone just walks around staring at this phone. And I'm just thinking to myself, you know, they're just consuming content like there's no tomorrow. And they're just getting messages smashing them every single day. So what happens when you give people too many messages? They start to close down. They start to become immune to those messages. So how do we deal with this as a company looking to get new leads? One way is to yell louder. And Facebook and Google will tell you you should yell louder and pay more. So we start paying for leads. And we pay more and more for leads. And we get leads, but it's an endless cycle of paying more money. I don't think this is the answer to being successful in business. I think one of the secrets to being successful in business is to not become invisible, to not be a number, to not follow what everyone else is doing, but to be clever about how you generate leads. So the opportunity is simple. If you do your lead generation in an effective way, and we're going to talk a bit about how to do this in this presentation, you will get pre-qualified leads. That means that you already know lots about that person before you enter into a conversation with them. The second thing that you'll get is people who are ready to buy. So I don't mind getting 1,000 leads a day. But what I want to know is out of that 1,000, which are the ones I need to be talking to right now, and which are the ones that are going to go into my nurture system, which is my CRM, so I can keep them warm over the period of time until they're ready to buy. The third thing is that you can become an authority in their world. And I'm going to mention a few books as we go through today, but one of my favorite books on this is a book called Oversubscribed by Daniel Priestley. Now, if you don't know who Daniel Priestley is, he runs a group called KPI. But the book that I'm talking about, he talks about how you position yourself as an authority in a marketplace and how you actually create a wait list. And I think it's a brilliant idea because in a world where Reddit, also awesome, Chantel, in a world where we're just smashed by noise, you don't want to be another person yelling. You actually want to be the person that people go to. And you do this by building your presence in a marketplace. And this is one of my favorite sayings of all times is, the prize never chases. So you want to become the prize. You want to become the thing that people want. I was talking to David earlier and he said, you know, I like to capture people with intrigue, if you saw that in the chat. And really the idea of catching people with intrigue is saying, I want to know more. Now that reverses the role of the salesperson. So rather than trying to sell something, you are now something that people are interested in. So how do you become the prize? Because as you are the prize in an industry, people will chase you rather than you chasing them. So let's talk a bit about the keys on how to do all this. Because the first rule that I want to get you to think about is this whole idea of marketing being a mathematical equation. Ben touched on this, Pete touched on this, and I touched on this when I talked about the sales and marketing of Tom Hopkins. Is marketing is just a mathematical equation. And for us to be effective in our marketing, there's 2 numbers that we need to know. The first number that I think everyone in business needs to calculate is what is the acquisition cost of getting a new client? How much does it cost me to buy a new client? I'm not talking about cost per lead. I'm not talking about cost per appointment. I'm saying, how much did you spend to buy a new client, right? Now, the short answer is how much did I spend on sales and marketing, and that includes your time, divided by how many new deals did I get in the same period of time. And that will tell you what your current acquisition cost is. Now, once you know that number, you have one goal in life, and I'm talking about measuring it specifically to the dollar. It's a dollar amount, and your job is to bring it down. What's your acquisition cost? The second number, which is probably just as important, if not more important, is known as lifetime value. Lifetime value. How much is a client worth to you in their lifetime? How much money are they worth to you? And once again, this is dollars, okay? Now, lifetime value will be measured in two ways. It's how much money they spend with you, but more importantly, how profitable they are to you. And I'll give you a case study of this, which is really easy. We talked about accountants earlier. An accountant is typically got a very sticky client base. In other words, people stay with their accountant for a long period of time. Who knows what I mean? Just quick show of hands. Yep. So typically a person's tenure with their accountant is around 10 years. Okay. Now, if I'm a business and I work with an accountant, I spend $5,000 a year, my lifetime value with that client over 10 years is $50,000. And so if I'm worth $50,000 to that accountant, the question is, how much are they willing to pay to get a client that is worth $50,000 in revenue? And more importantly, in profit. So when I was talking to an accountant about this, he said, we average about 10% profit across the board net. So $50,000 client's worth $5,000 for us over 5 years. I said, how much would you pay me for that client? He said, I don't know, $500. I said, would you pay $1,000? He goes, maybe. I said, you need to know this number, right? Because when you know how much you're willing to spend on marketing, you can then go and find clients ad nauseum, because if you spend your money effectively on marketing, and I'll give you the simple example. If I said to you, for every dollar you give me, I'll give you $2 in return. How much money would you give me? You don't need to answer this. I know the answer. It depends. Is this a real deal? Well, it's not. It's hypothetical. But most people say as much as I possibly can. But when I ask them, what's your marketing budget for 2024? They either don't have a number or the number is the least amount possible. Now, I'm going to suggest that if you know these two numbers, your marketing budget's not going to be the least amount possible. It's going to be the most amount possible. And I want you to think about marketing as being maths. So if we reduce the number for acquisition costs, we need to increase the number for lifetime value. And when you know what these numbers are, you become super powerful in the world of marketing because you're willing to spend the money knowing what your return on investment is going to be. Does this make sense for everyone? Thumbs up if you're with me. Awesome. Let's get into some real world stuff. Oh, if you want to work out how much you're willing to spend on marketing, there's a little tool here called the Allowable Marketing Calculator. It's just a single sheet. If you want to grab it, you can grab that QR code. I might get Ira to pop the link into the chat box as well. That's just on our website. It just helps people understand, what am I willing to spend to acquire a client? It's a super powerful number. So let's get into the next part of the puzzle, which is your funnel. Now, I'm going to suggest that a funnel does look like this, right? Because everyone knows what a funnel looks like. But I'm not going to draw a detailed funnel. What I want you to do is decide, what is your funnel? Where are your leads coming from? What is your nurture sequence? So middle of funnel. What is your top of funnel? And what is your closing process? And this is the bottom of funnel. Now, we've talked about process, and most people have resonated with this. I've noticed in the chat box. Yes, you need a process. You need to have timing on how quickly you return calls. You need to have a sequence of communication that you have in your middle of funnel. Even Ben said, if you're going to close sales, you need to have a follow-up call built into your sales process. So imagine mapping this out and saying, from the minute someone knows I exist to the minute they buy, there is a preloaded workflow that I have in my system. This funnel that you create for your business is worth its weight in gold. And when we talk about cash for Christmas and we talk about top of funnel, I'm going to suggest that you may not see the cash, but you're going to see the increase in asset value. If you knew how many leads you were getting every single month and how many went from inquiry to middle of funnel, which means they're qualified enough for you to keep in touch with, and then bottom of funnel, which is where they raise their hand and say, I'm interested in talking to you about your product or service, you're going to start seeing the most valuable asset within your marketing and sales funnel, which is your database. So you need to have a funnel and you need to have a structure around it. Top, middle, and bottom. I want to talk about another book. Probably one of my favorite sales books of all times is called The Ultimate Sales Machine. It was written by a man by the name of Chet Holmes. He's not with us any longer. But it was one of my favorite books on sales because it comes in 12 discrete chapters, and each chapter is a book in its own right. One of the chapters, he talks about the stadium pitch, and he says, you know, I want you to imagine that we fill the MCG with 100,000 people who fit your target market. They have to come to the presentation, but they don't have to stay. And from the minute you open your mouth, he says, this is the numbers, and Pete's already alluded to this. He said, there's only 3% of those people in that stadium that fit your target market that are buying right now. So as soon as you open your mouth and say, hi, I'm David Guest and I run a business coaching firm, 3% of the market say, I'm actually buying, I'm looking for a coach right now. The other 97% not. He then said 7% will be thinking about it. So they're open to it, I should say. Open to it. So they're going to stay. But that leaves 90% of people who basically will get up and walk out of the room when you pitch yourself as a professional in your product or service. Now, a few people have alluded to this today. You don't sell who you are, you sell the benefits to the customer of what you do. So when you think about how you market and how you create your lead magnets, stop trying to create lead magnets that tell me about your product or service or even your value stack. Start creating lead magnets that solve problems that I have right now and identify who I am right now. One of my favorite marketing quotes is, and I think it was Gary Halbert that said it, you need to enter the conversation that is already going on in your prospect's mind. I'll say that again. You need to enter the conversation that is already going on in your prospect's mind. Don't try and sell them something that's a foreign object. Get into something they're thinking about right now. It's usually a problem they have, and identify with that problem and show them a pathway to resolve that issue. So the last part of this stadium pitch, there's another 30% in here, 30% in here, and 30% in here. These ones don't. These ones are basically not thinking about it. So not thinking about your product or service right now. They're just not in that market, so they're going to walk. These ones think they're not interested. And these ones have already got a supplier or they are definitely not interested. Now, what this tells me is for me to keep as many people in the stadium as possible, I don't want to talk about my product or service. What I want to talk about is their problems and their world. And I want to give them some sort of value. So when we talk about marketing with magnets, I want those magnets to be cheat sheets. I want those magnets to be things that solve problems for people at no cost to you, but turn you into an authority. And so when we create lead magnets these days, and we've got a beautiful new tool, everyone knows about ChatGPT. You don't even have to write anything anymore. You just think it and it appears out of nowhere like magic. Don't assume that creating content that way is going to solve a problem. The strategy of you thinking through the psychology of your target market and understanding what is keeping them up at night is still the secret sauce to engaging people who are in your target market. It's not about having a better mousetrap. It's about understanding what they're thinking about on a day-by-day basis. So you need to build this thing called the stadium pitch. I want to talk about another philosophy which is super, super important, and it's called the 10 by 10 marketing plan. So when people come to me and they say, well, we need to generate more leads, I go, great. We need to have multiple strategies. And when I draw this diagram, you'll understand where I'm going with this. And this, for those people who can't understand my drawing, is a diving board. And here we are, we're running our business. And most people I talk to, when I say, what's your marketing strategy look like? They say, we get most of our leads through word of mouth or referral, which is great, by the way. I love word of mouth and referral, but it's a single strategy. And if you look at this diving board, it's a very unstable platform because if that pillar there falls over, there's zero. So if you don't go networking, so when COVID came along and shut down the networking world, those people who relied on word of mouth and referral got smashed. What they realized is you need plan B, plan C, plan D. So 10 by 10 means to me that you build a marketing platform. And the marketing platform is going to have 10 of these pillars. And each one of those pillars is going to be a different strategy that's either going to be a lead gen strategy or a lead nurture strategy. And what I'm hoping that is 10 strategies produce 10% of my leads, which equals my 100% of lead gen, which means every month I'm not relying on my advertising to get me leads. I'm getting leads through my own database as well. And when I do that through newsletter, I do that through events, I do that through all sorts of different channels. Now, when we think about 10 by 10, what I mean by this is you must have multiple strategies because they also bounce off each other. So as an example, we might have in here, 10 by 10, we might have word of mouth as one of our strategies. We might have our newsletter as one of our strategies. We might use Facebook. Paid advertising is one of our strategies, and we might do blogs. Now, I'm not going to suggest what you do here. You need to work this out. But each one of these is like a spinning plate. And when I talk about the spinning plate theory, you'll get it. Anyone been to the circus and seen that clown that gets the plate up spinning on the stick, sticks it on the stand, it's spinning away, he gets the second plate, it takes a bit of effort to get it up and running, sticks it on the stand, gets the third one. By the time he gets to number 3, the first one starts to wobble. Each one of your marketing strategies needs to be like a spinning plate. It spins for a while, but you need to keep your eye on the plate. And when you have 10 of these things running, you'll have 10 plates spinning where you just need to tweak each plate, tweak each plate. Some strategies will stop working. You need to remove them or adjust them. But I want you to think of marketing as something that's non-negotiable in my business, and it's not single dimensional. It needs to build over time. It's making sense for everyone so far. Thumbs up if you're still with me. Awesome. I'm going to keep rolling because I'm mindful of time. I'm going to conclude on this really important point. So when I started my business career, when I was younger, my brother gave me a book by this fellow by the name of Jim Rohn. And if anyone hasn't heard or met, or you've got to find this guy. He's super interesting. But my favorite quote he ever said was this one: "Never wish life were easier, wish you were better." We're in a world where we're in information overload. There is so much stuff coming at us every single day. And we're sitting here saying, we need more leads. Well, it was the same problem 20 years ago, 50 years ago. We need more leads. You don't need more leads. You just need a system to manage the lead flow. You need a system that pre-qualifies the people that you're talking to. You need a system to make sure when a person raises their hand, they're interested in your product or service, that you have what they need and you can provide it in a way that appeals to them. And this is all about how you control your own destiny, and what you learn about. We've mentioned a few books today. The 3 guys that have been on this call literally understand sales back to front. They've been doing it for years and years and years. And what I've found is most people ignore sales. They ignore it. They say, I have to sell. I don't love to sell. I have to sell, unless you're a salesperson. I believe sales should be taught to every person on the planet, because it's not really sales. It's communication, right? And I'll tell you one thing. If you want to be successful in life, you just need to learn how to be a better communicator, because you can get anything in life you want. This is a Zig Ziglar quote: if you help enough other people get what they want. And it's so simple. You can get anything in life you want if you help enough other people get what they want. And part of sales to me is not selling anything. It's helping people see value in what you do. And if they don't see value in what you do, you've either not communicated effectively, or there's no value to them in what you do. So let's move on to the next prospect. Okay, don't try selling people your stuff to people who don't want it. So I want to wrap this up a little bit. Talking about free stuff, lead magnets. We have constantly been evolving our process. And for those who don't know who we are, Outcomes Business Group, we've been helping people grow their business for 25 years. We give a lot of stuff away for free. Anyone who's been on our email list knows this. We're putting together a thing called the Outcomes Business Roadmap. And I'm not going to go through all the details of this. What I will tell you is that it's going to launch in the new year. And it's going to be a full training online for anyone in business. And it's going to take you through the 4 stages of growth. So the first stage is getting control back of your business, understanding where you're going, understanding what you need to work on, and having metrics that tell you you're moving in the right direction. The second part is about cash flow. And this is what we've been talking about today. How do I get more leads? How do I attract the right people to my business? How do I convert them? And how do I make sure they buy my product or service? The 2 bits that interest me the most is what happens when I'm really good at what I do and I'm busy. Well, the answer is you need to get out of the business and you need to build your team. So when we talk about growth in business internally, we talk about how do we get our team to run the business for us. So we talk about recruit, delegate, and retain. And then the last bit is how do I get out? And I want to wrap this up with one question that I picked up from Michael Gerber, who wrote the E-Myth Revisited. And it's always plagued me because I ask people this question when I coach them. I say, tell me what your business is going to look like when it's finished. What will your business look like when it's finished? And most people are a little bit puzzled by that. They go, what do you mean finished? I just started. Or I love they'll tell me all the reasons they don't want to finish it. And I say, yeah, do this. Go to a builder and say, I want you to build me a house. And he says, how many floors? And you say, don't worry, just start. And they'll look at you like you're nuts, right? But most people in business, that's their response to what are you building? I don't know. I just need more clients. 2 more clients and I'll be good. Truth of the matter is, if you're really building a business, you need to have a map of an end result. And if you want to get that, I'm going to put this back up. If you jump onto that QR code or that website, you'll go on the wait list. And when you go on that wait list, I will be giving away this program for free for a limited period of time. I don't know how long. I want to test it. It's a full training that's going to show you every step of building a business. You can jump in, you can take advantage of it. There's no costs involved. Because one thing I believe is that if you've got the guts to run your own business, because for most people, they don't realize this, just another pearl for you. When you do decide to run your own business, right, the opportunity cost that Ben talked about for you is the wage that you gave away when you decided to run your own business, right? Plus the money you should be making. And I'm going to make a suggestion for you that if you do run your own business, you don't need to make as much as you did from a job. You need to make 3 times what you believe you're worth in the marketplace. So do the maths on that. If you think you're worth $100,000 in a job, your business should be generating $300,000 of profit for you at some time in the future. And the reason I say 3 times is one thing most business owners don't take into account when they run their business is risk. So when you take a job, you get superannuation, long service leave, you get protected by the government. And so you're looked after. As soon as you run your own business, all of those things are optional. So the year that you don't make money, there's no recovery. And that's why your goal should be a minimum of 3 times what you're worth in the marketplace. And if you don't have a business goal or an objective to do that in some time in the future, chances are that you're not going to make it in business. And the statistics on business success in Australia are terrible. You know, Gerber talks about, 80% of businesses don't make it past 5 years. I believe it's more than that. And the reason they don't is they don't think about making too much money. They think, I shouldn't be greedy. I'm making good money. Well, what about the costs of running the business? What about the opportunity cost of not having all of the superannuation, long service leave, all those things? So please don't undervalue what your business needs to generate for you. And if you don't have a plan to get you there, that's what we will help you with. So if it's of interest to you, the roadmap is going to be available in the new year. It's no cost, right? It's literally there because I believe anyone who's in business should be making $1 million a year in revenue, minimum. And if you're not, you're probably missing some of these steps. And once you're there, then we can start to help you with some serious stuff if that's what you want to do. But to get to $1 million should be non-negotiable. And I'm talking revenue here, not profitability. Profitability, we don't talk about profit until we're over $1 million because it's all about cash. Okay, just get the money in the door. So if that's something that's of value to you, please jump online and grab that. I do want to talk about the future, but I'm just going to talk about it. So today we've talked about a lot of things and we've come full circle. We've talked about how do you convert more sales? And I believe sales process should be a part of everyone's business process. Then we talked about what about those people that are not ready to buy from you yet? What do we do with those? We put them into a nurture system and they become of value to us over time. And then the last thing we said is you should be investing in your marketing. You should be spending money on marketing. And the question isn't how much should I spend? The question is what's my return on my marketing investment? Because if I can get $2 profit for every $1 I spend in marketing, guess how much I'm going to spend? Every cent I can until I have got no capacity left in my business. Now, I'm not suggesting it's easy to get $2 for every $1, but if you start to measure things like acquisition cost, lifetime value, and use the numbers to drive the growth of your business, you will improve because the numbers don't lie.